Um, so tonight we're very blessed to have some guests who I'm going to basically kind of turn it over to them for conversation. But before I do that, I want to also note that we're going to do something a little different for questions. In the past, we have done a question round after guests have spoken for a period of time and done a whole round. In order to maybe maximize our time, what I'm going to ask you all to do is put your questions into the chat, and you can do that as they occur to you while guests are talking at the end and so forth. And then I'll moderate a Q&A after we hear initially from our guests. And we'll take this time until about 8:05 before we take our break. So we have a little over an hour. So I'm very excited. So our guests here, I'm going to actually start with Heather Sattler, because I spoke with Heather, and Heather, let you introduce the rest of our guests, and you all can take it away in answering the questions that, our initial questions, or saying what you feel like you need to say to give us a sense of your program. And I think most people have had a chance to at least watch a video or read the papers, whatever, all of that. So I pass with open-mindedness to Heather.
Thank you so much, Leanne. I realize I'm a little so emotionally overwhelmed. I didn't give a number or put my my pronouns, say them out loud. So I put them in the chat, and I'll let my emotions speak for themselves. I'm kind of with you. So first of all, I feel very honored and very grateful to be here with all of you today. It's really a gift. It's really a gift. And when I was kind of booted off and I had to relocate in my house to find a space, all of my cords were tangled up. And I was like, I think it's just time for me to sit down and untangle some cords. And the thing that I thought about is, it's okay if I'm not there, because my partners are there, my students are there, and they will hold the space. And I think that sentiment, that belief, that way is how I move with the work at the Alliance School. So just a little bit about me. I've been teaching in the Milwaukee public schools. This is my 24th year, which is unbelievable. No, it's my 25th year. Look at that. It's my 25th year. And I've been at the Alliance School for the last 8 years and doing the work of restorative practice there. And so I was very, very blessed to learn from many teachers from different traditions. And so I honor Yvette and James Morrell, Oscar Reed, and Jamie Williams, Myra Nishowski, and Jojo Pomaria Nostroma. So I'm so blessed to have my teachers with me in the work. And so when I came to Alliance, I was learning the work, and my way as a teacher has always been to connect deeply with the hearts of my students and find out what's important to them and support them in finding the magic and the brilliance inside of them, their talents and their gifts, and what's important to them. And then supporting them in doing real work in the community that actually makes a difference. And so when I came to Alliance, I began to do the work. I began to learn the work. And within a year, when I was teaching a group of students, I took what I had learned from my teachers and I created a practice with my students, and I shared it with my teachers, because I wanted to make sure that I was teaching in a way that reflected all that I had learned from them. And so I very much engaged with my students, and of course from the beginning thought, well, we all must hold this work. And I always believe that our young people should lead us. And so it's been my vision and it's been my vision for a long time that young people lead and hold the work of restorative practices in our school, in our city, in our country, and beyond. It's been really important. And so I was very fortunate at Alliance to have a school leader in Tina Owen. And every time I asked for something, she supported us in having it. And so I'll just say that what was very significant is that the entire staff was trained in the work. And beloved Oscar Reed always says, you got to get it for yourself first. And so we were all very firm that you know, and I'm getting it for myself first every day, every moment of every day. And so in the space of the work, we continue as a staff to hold the work so that we can have a space to hold our students in leading the work. But what was very significant about what we did is I created a class that gave my students credit for the work. It's an English credit because I'm an English teacher. We just have to work with the system, right? And so we created this class, and then it grew into 3 classes. And so there's a class for sophomores who learn the work, and this is articulated in the video in the article, so I won't be redundant. But suffice it to say, the work lives in a class, so the student's work is legitimized by a credit. It's respected as a credit. And moreover, the staff holds and practices the work, and the students lead the work in the school, and it's part of the discipline structure. So the students actually participate in holding circles, and whether it's a quarterly school-wide circle that they create and facilitate, whether it's repair harm circles, whether it's working with and through conversations with students, or whether it's when some people in our school, we try really hard to keep our students in our school, and some people try really hard to kick themselves out, and we try really hard to keep them. So we have a process, we call it a peer council, and my beloved work partner, Sharon Lerman, and 2 of my teachers, Yvette and James, were responsible for initially creating this process and gifting it to us, and then we adapted it to our school. And it's like a restorative conference, essentially, and it has a deep layer of support for young people. So there's many different supports. If you want to use the language of some scholars, you know, we have the tertiary levels of support that I was just referring to, but also the primary and secondary, right? Or PBIS first, you know, all the different tiers. The bottom line is we try to give people the support that they need, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a circle, or whether it's a sit down with the whole community. A big part of our work, though, is the students facilitating the work outside the school. And so the students who are juniors learn the work within themselves and hold the school spaces, and the seniors, and Nisi and Jada are seniors, their work is to do the work in the community. And so I'll let them talk about that, and I can certainly let Dorian and Antonio speak about their experience doing that work. But the students in that class, we've done a lot of work around the country teaching other people, and the students are the ones who created the mission for that program. And every year I teach that with project-based learning. And so my students every year determine their work. And so Anessia and Jada, I'll let you talk about what you all decided you want to do with your work this year. And then also we have Dorian and Antonio. I'm so blessed to work with Sharon, Dorian, and Antonio as my partners. We're cultivating a citywide model of restorative practice, which we've been developing for years. And Sharon, I will let you talk about your connectedness to the justice system in Milwaukee and your perseverance in connecting many dots. And Dorian and Antonio, I'll let you talk about the work that you're doing. But suffice it to say, I stand here with, and I'm going to stop after this and pass it off to you, just so get ready, okay? I stand here with a heavy heart for a beloved student who was shot and killed on Saturday. And I am here because I believe so much in the power of the work. And I stand here with so much hope because of what we cultivate every day in ourselves and in the space of the circle, and what we are cultivating in our school right now, in our city right now. And the fact that, Leanne, you reached out and you said, we want to hear about young people leading restorative practice was amazing to me. It was such a gift. So thank you so much for asking the question, and thank you all for listening. And I'm going to leave it up to you, Anessia, Jada, Dorian, Antonio, Sharon, whomever is compelled to step in, I invite you.
Hey everyone. I just wanted to speak on my first of all, speak on my personal path with restorative practices. With it, my first time experiencing it in Alliance. So with Alliance, the whole school model, as Heather was saying, in the junior class, doing the work inside the school is running those student councils or repair harm circles with students who may have gotten into an altercation with another student, or may have caused troubles in a class of a teacher. Those repair harm circles are used to, resolve conflict and create a contract that both parties agree upon so that they are able to fix the harm that was caused between each other. With the community building circle, we do school-wide circles, and those happen twice a semester. And my first experiences, excuse me, my first experience with restorative practices was with a community building circle, and it was led by a former student named Jeremiah Owens, and he is the reason why I was referred to the class as a sophomore instead of a junior. And so it was an amazing experience to be a part of, just to have a space where I was able to be open and honest, vulnerable with people that I see throughout my school whose stories I never really knew. Like, you see the same person in your first hour class, so you see that same person when you get on the bus, you see that person walking through the hall. But being a part of that class and sitting in a classroom with another student and hearing their story as well as them hearing mine, and us using each other's stories as medicine to doctor ourselves to health is just a different experience altogether. And so being a part of that is like, it's a blessing in and of itself. With being a part of that, I ended up, staying or continued with the work even after I graduated. Being a part of a police training, being a part of a circle that was held for some librarians, just, trying to apply myself with restorative practices as much as I could, because I know that this work is very important. And it is not until recently, through a little bit of self-work, that I'm able to realize that I do have a gift. Like, I have something that I was born with, a God-given gift that is that can be used to help get, help steer people in a direction that does, that leads them out of scary situations, like, what happened with a lot of young African American men. And I'm in my experience from restorative practices and my self-work, trying to understand how my gift is specific, like how I can apply myself using my gift to my community, as well as working with restorative practices to maximize the effectiveness of my gift. I am I'm hoping that at the end of the day, if I could, if I could at least help one person, if I could get through to one person and have them realize that their actions have consequences, and that the consequences of their actions don't only affect themselves, but it affects their community, it affects their family and friends, then I would say, I've done my job. I do want to speak a little bit on the citywide model, but I want to give, my work partners as well as some of the current students a chance to speak.
Was that my cue? Hi, my name is Dorian again. Antonio is my work partner. To start a little bit on how I got involved in the work, there's no really big, like, elaborate story. I just needed an English credit, and restorative practices is an English class. To be completely honest, when I first started, I remember like walking into the classroom. If you guys ever get the opportunity to come into Heather's classroom, her old classroom was downstairs in the basement, and she had like this cute little light in the middle, and she had these chairs in a circle. Now, I'm coming from like private school, so I'm like, this is not an English credit. Like, there's a white lady, and like, I don't know what's going on. It's dim in the room. I'm like, what is this? Like, is she gonna take my soul? Like, I'd had experience with Circle before because it is school wide, but it was just different because I was like, I thought I was gonna type a paper, and what you mean you want me to talk about myself? Like, that's none of y'all business. So for me, it took me a while because I was like, this is weird. And I just remember calling my mom, like, can I drop this class? Because this is not what I thought it was gonna be. And over time, it grew on me, and I did a lot of self work and understanding that, like, the first year, I was like, this is hard. Like, having to really sit with yourself and understand why you do things the way you do, and like understanding emotional trauma and like all of these other things that you don't think about, and understanding that it is okay to converse with other people that are not your family. Um, is different, especially for me, because that's something that you're kind of going against the grain. That's not what I was taught. Um, but honestly, I can say being a circle keeper is one of the best jobs that I've ever had. Having the opportunity to be able to travel all around the world and meet different people from different walks of life, and feeling connected to them, no matter who they are, is really something that's very special. I'm having the opportunity to work with my work partner, work with Sharon, working with Heather, is always awesome. And just going over a little bit of the work that we do, or at least today, myself and my work partner, we held a circle for a group of young ladies that live in a group home, and having the opportunity just to speak with them and listen to their stories, and allowing, just having them to be so vulnerable with me. And they've never met me before, they've never seen me before ever having circle, and never really knew or even had an experience with circle. Is just really awesome, and it just really speaks to the volume of how important our work is. And just hearing them so enthusiastic to say, when are you guys coming back? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. But it just really means a lot. It's always exciting to see new circle keepers too, and just hear all the great things that they're doing. Um, so I'm gonna stop talking now because I feel like I'm talking a lot. And I'm gonna give Jada and Nisi the chance to talk and talk about what they're doing, because they're doing amazing stuff too.
Okay, time for me to not be shy. Okay, so my name is Jada, aka Tigger, and I've been doing restorative practice for 3 years now. Can't believe it. And like Dorian said, like when I first went in her classroom, it was weird. Like I feel like they was doing witchcraft and stuff, because like it's like the table in the middle, then a light, and it's like dark and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that. Then on top of that, like you have to like talk about your feelings. And I was like, first off, I don't know these people. So like I just felt like they was trying to get in your business. But like she said, it just kind of grew. Like with my family, we wasn't like, if you have something to say, you have to like keep that to yourself. So it's just like when I was going through stuff and I did wanted to tell someone, it's like I couldn't tell my family. So just, keep it to yourself. But like once I joined the class, I learned like how to socialize and basically like listen to other people, and like just like socializing, like just helping them, like telling them, they tell me their experiences and I tell them mine, and like just connecting. And like, oh my God, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm so nervous. But yeah, just like listening to what they saying, like not just like hearing, because like there's a difference between hearing and listening. Like hearing, you just hearing what they saying, you're not paying attention. But like listening, like you could like actually tell them, give them feedback of like what they said and like stuff like that, and like ways to help them. And the reason what made me like join, even though I could have left that class, what made me actually like stay was because like I like to help people, and it just I felt like if I can help someone and then it make them feel good, I feel like I can help them. Like if they want to do the work, get them interested in it, then it's like more people, and then so on, they can help others and get more people to do it, and it can just get bigger and bigger. Um, like from what I noticed, like, and from what I seen, and like stories that like other soccer keepers, previous ones told me, like, it helped them like a lot. Like, I know it helped me. Like when I needed someone to talk to, I always had Heather or like other students, also to talk to about personal things. And I just feel like you can be like very vulnerable, like around these people that you don't know. Like there's a lot of emotion going. Like as soon as you walk in a classroom, you could just like feel everybody emotion, especially like first thing in the morning, because we had Heather like first block, so everybody just going there like mad or they tired. And as soon as we talk, we play our little game or whatever, then it's just like everything good. I'm passing to Nisi.
Sorry, for some reason I'm always the last one. So it was just really like that. But I'm gonna be honest. Heather class was a requirement. I just got that class. That's how it all started. Um, but walking in, I didn't really I knew it was gonna be laid back. And like Jada said, it was always first block. So when you came in, it was time to actually come out and really come correct. Because Heather will bust you out if you don't come correct. And that would be the best part. So Circle is a home away from home. Like I said it before, I'm gonna keep saying it again. Circle is a home away from home because that is a place where you will find people who you think are living their best life and going through the worst things in life. Like you will find people who you didn't even think you had anything in common with, and they have been through the same thing or worse than you. You will find you a whole new family in circle because everyone bonds off of their feelings. Now, when certain people come to circle, they don't want to be there because they don't want to actually get into their feelings. They don't want to connect within themselves and figure out what they have to fix because it is a scary process that you have to sit there and think about yourself and think about what you have done. Not everybody wants to do that. So for you to actually sit there and actually do it and think about it and keep going and going, having these questions raised into your mind, like it makes you a stronger person. It makes you more confident. It makes you realize like I actually can do this. I actually can help others. It makes you think of things that you didn't even know you can do, and you actually can do it. And Circle has changed so many lives. And if you sit there and you listen to everybody, you can actually change your life or your life will change. So Circle is just a big part of it can just become a big part of your life and it's amazing and I love it. And I literally have like 2 essays on it, so I'm just stop talking and go about it because I can talk about Circle all day.
So Nisi and Jada, would you two be willing to talk about what you all wanted to do what we're working on for your semester, for this project, for this school year, what you decided you all wanted to do?
um Jada, go ahead, cause you can explain. But no, what we as a class decided to do was bring Circle into our families, and we decided to teach them about restorative practice so we can actually heal some of the wounds that we have gotten from our family. And I believe Jada has personally done that, so I'm gonna send it to her so she can talk about that experience.
Okay, so yeah, I've done 2 circles with my little brother, my mom, and um her husband. I don't like to claim him. That's not and me. So basically, what we talked about was like my mom and my stepdad go through a lot of things, and it's just like we seen a lot of stuff growing up. So it's just like my mom was like literally at her breaking point. She just like couldn't take it anymore. So I just like we just sat down and we like had a little candle and everything. The room was dark. We was up in the dining room, had a little bitty candle up in there like this tiny, and we just talked. I made this. I don't remember what our talking piece was. It was something that I just randomly made, and like yeah, we talked, and I it didn't really resolve anything. Like I just think it was important for us to actually like share how we was feeling, and like for me and my brother personally to actually tell our parent what goes on and like the things that we'd be too scared to say without us getting in trouble. Because like we used to like raise in a household where like if I don't know how to say it, like if you say something about how you feel, she consider that talking back, and you can't defend yourself. So you just have to sit there and take it, even if you didn't do anything. So you just have to, yeah. So I just told her like we just told her like how we felt and like how we don't like seeing them argue and stuff like that and fighting all the time and just, you know, just got everything out. She told us like basically how she felt about her side and like the wrongdoings that was going on and stuff that even me and my brother did that she might not have like, and things that we might not agree with. And yeah, I feel like it went well. I don't think it really changed, but I think it's like it was good that we know how each other felt at the moment.
And, you know, I want to thank you for being so generous and sharing all of that, Jada. um, you know, so I think what was really heartening for me is we're in the middle of a global pandemic and so much is rising up for healing in our country, right? Rightly so. And at this time when I'm sitting with my students, we've been continuing our work. You know, we've been deepening with ancestral healing work. We've been deepening with work about understanding structural oppression and pulling apart a lot and working with and through that. And so when we were talking about what we wanted to do, my students basically said, we want to teach our family, but they want to teach them everything that we do. And so like Jada is just practicing. And so we're actually in the process of deciding, and I don't know what it's going to look like or what they're going to decide to do, but every year, I fall in love and there's magic that happens. And so in the midst of this global pandemic, magic is happening. Sharon, want to talk about magic?
Hi. I think the beginning of the magic was Heather and I meeting about 7 years ago through a restorative practice gathering, and we realized that we had just a lot of common values and a passion for this work. I had been working, my initial training in restorative practices was through Kay Pranis 20 years ago, and had spent all the years until I met Heather doing this work in workplaces. And she had asked me to do a training with her. A school had come to her and asked that they would train the teachers in that school. And so she asked if I would co-facilitate that training with her. And so we did that training and realized, again, the magic of doing this work together, and other schools and word of mouth and nonprofits just kept coming to us and asking us to offer them trainings. For me, what was really powerful was to come to Heather's classroom and work with her students at different points. And we started bringing them into our trainings as co-facilitators. And especially at the end of our trainings, we would, for us, it's really important to experience the work, but also give people who are learning how to do the work before they leave the opportunity to co-facilitate, to create questions themselves and co-facilitate a circle literally as part of their training, so that they leave the training having already had the experience and knowledge that they can actually do this. So in doing that, we had Heather's students coach them and help them in creating the questions and supporting them as they led the circles. And through that, we realized how powerful it is for young people to be holding this and training other people, in this case, adults, and how actually it just felt so natural that young people should be holding this and leading this and teaching the community how to do this work. And so eventually we as we were getting work throughout the community, this was actually a vision that I had for many years, was to do circles in libraries. And so a lot of my I would just go out literally to any community meeting and meet people. And so by chance, at one community meeting, I happened to sit next to the head of the entire library system in Milwaukee. And we had a wonderful conversation, and she ended up really supporting the idea of young people leading circles in the community rooms of libraries with people in that neighborhood. And the idea behind this is really looking at restorative practices and restorative justice as a life skill, because the skill that the young people get from Heather in the classroom is something that they can use in the community and support the community in community building and problem solving and repairing harm in the community. So now Heather's, I'll let Heather talk about this, but her senior students lead up until the coronavirus hit, when we couldn't have in-person circles. They were leading circles on a monthly basis in quite a few different libraries in Milwaukee. And we, before that, trained, had actually a training for librarians that, again, was, we had co-facilitators of Heather's students helping us. And these librarians are being mentored by Heather's high school students so that they can support these circles within their library. And our hope moving forward is also that there would be repair harm circles in libraries, because the truth is many young people come to libraries after school as a place to do their homework, to get access to computers, and yet a lot of times conflict arises. So what oftentimes libraries end up doing are kicking people, giving people notice that they can't come to the library anymore because of their behavior. So instead, what we're working with the libraries to do, again, after things open up, is to hold repair harm circles. That instead of punishment, we're looking at repair, and so that young people can continue to have a space to come and get the support they need after school. So that gives sort of a sense of all this, but really our intention also in working with the police, our hope is that eventually the police, through the training that we have done with them and the excitement that we've created as a result of them experiencing the circle, our hope is that they would also come to these library circles in their neighborhood so that they could connect with the people in their neighborhoods on a human level, on a level of empathy, hearing each other's stories, so that there would be that connection. And again, our intention is that the young people are the ones leading these circles. The young people are the ones who are determining what will be talked about at these circles based on the needs of community.
And just to add to that, so when I started to do this work at Alliance, very immediately my students were going out and facilitating and leading circle spaces. And when we developed that advanced class, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years into the work, we were doing so much work that one of my students said, Heather, we need another class. Like, this is too much work. We're going to conferences, we're going places, we're teaching. We need to like get more people on board. And I said, absolutely. So the students helped me design this. And one of the things that was so amazing, there's an organization in Milwaukee, it's called Pathfinders. And they work with young people who are struggling with displacement. And so they're just an incredible organization. And so one of the people who is a therapist loves young people, who believes in their power. He's like, Heather, we don't have any money for a training. So do you think that your students could teach us? And I said, do I think my students could teach you? Absolutely. And I said, but here's the thing, they are getting this for a class, but I think it's really important that my students understand their value and their worth. And I think we need to talk about our time being energy, and how there's many ways to exchange energy. And so I was so appreciative of Joseph Stanley, because that was maybe our first year. And Antonio, I think that might have been before you. But but basically we ended up facilitating a training for their organization. And one of my students actually came through to Pathfinders and was doing some volunteer work and came to Alliance and said, I want to be a circle keeper. I was like, okay. And it was because he had experienced the work in the community. And so my students have been doing this work. And so when Sharon and I, started to facilitate trainings and my students were part of it, they were getting class credit, but we were always adamant that if they're going to do this work outside of school hours, that they should be paid and that they should be paid well. Because they, first of all, we're cultivating a way of being when we sit in circle. It's this practice that we have, right? And so they are teaching other people this way, and they're holding these very important spaces. And so as we've continued to grow the work, our students have been in many different spaces, and the library has been one of them. And so that is something that's actually separate from school, but it started in the space of the school. There's so much work and so many different projects and things that we have done. So I didn't want to overwhelm you with the details, but suffice it to say that it's about really connecting with the students really deeply learning the work and holding it within themselves and listening to the calls from within ourselves and within the community and being responsive. And so every year we receive different calls. And of course, this year the call was from the family, right? Our students' families were calling us. So one thing also that is really important when Sharon and I do this work in the community is that we invite people to hold this within themselves, within their families, within community organizations, so that we can really create shift, so that people can create their own transformation within themselves, within their organizations. And so like in working with the police, Antonio was part of one of those trainings, and it was a very powerful experience. And I have to say, because of Antonio's work in the classroom and in the practice in the school, he was able to hold a very powerful space. And in the space of mentoring police officers, as they begin to reimagine what it looks like to really work in the community and be caretakers of the community. And that's the language of one of the police officers, not one of mine. So, and the intention is that particular police officer, his name is Ralph, that he's going to be teaching other police officers, because we're inviting people to hold this in their spaces. And so the spirit, I'll say this, I felt as though I was given this sacred gift by my teachers, and I share it very sacredly with my students, and I invite them to do the same thing with other people. And so that's what we do. That's what we hold, whether it's within the school, whether it's within the community, or whether it's within the country when we're out doing the work. So wow. I feel like, does everyone need like a little like stretch break? I feel like we need to.
Thank you so much, all of you. I'd like to, I know we do have a break scheduled in. I don't know if people need to, if you need to just do something where you are, please feel free. I've been riveted and kind of on the edge of my seat. I don't see anybody having put questions in the chat, maybe because you, like me, were all riveted and not thinking about, let's put something in the chat. But I'm seeing, all right, I'm seeing a question from Kimiko. And I'm going to throw this out here I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pick who should answer these questions, but I want to make sure that we do hear from various of you. Kimiko's question is, please share more about your repair harm circle process, and what does that look like?
I can answer that. Repair harm circles are some of my favorite circles to do because they're the toughest. So the easiest way to give you a breakdown is that a repair harm circle is actually more than one circle. So for instance, let's say that me and Heather have an altercation. So I myself would get my own personal circle. We call that pre-work. There are 4 questions that we ask. We call those the 4 F's, which are facts, feelings, fix, and future. So the facts are just asking me like, Dorian, what happened? This is all from my perspective, and this is just straight facts. So this isn't something that I'm making up. It's just literally my perspective. So we have facts, we have fix. So fix is just more about like, what exactly could I have done differently? Go ahead, Antonia.
Feelings.
Oh, feelings. I'm so sorry. I'm I mean feelings. So how I felt. I'm sorry, facts, feelings, fix. So feelings is just like how I felt. And then fix, of course, is like what I'm willing to take accountability for and how I'm willing, what I'm willing to take accountability for, like taking accountability for the fact that I probably affected more than one person with my decision. And then future is what I'm willing to do to repair that harm, to what I've and how so yeah, basically just to how to repair that harm. So it could be something as simple as maybe me and Heather got into a verbal altercation and it was loud and other people heard it. Maybe we were in the school building. So I might say that if I see Heather again and we're getting loud, maybe I might avoid contact with her. I might walk past her. Maybe if I'm in front of maybe it was during her class and I disrupted her class. Maybe I apologize to her students, but it's all completely voluntary. Um, Heather would, of course, get her own circle answering those same questions. At the end of those circles, my personal circle and her personal circle, we would then ask, as I would ask as a facilitator, if I was a facilitator or someone was a facilitator, if Antonio is my facilitator, he's going to ask me if I'm willing to sit with Heather. And I'm allowed to say no. I can say like, nah, I'm not ready. Like I'm still ready to cuss her out. I doubt it most of the time once you get through those questions. Um, Traditionally, it's very, very rare that I've ever had someone tell me no, but they are allowed to. If myself and Heather both agree, we would then sit in that circle again. I might ask for a support person. So I might say, like, me and Jada are really tight. Like, that's my girl. And I need Jada there because Jada is going to keep me together. She's going to keep me on task. She's going to be like, no, Dorian, you're being petty. Like, answer the question. And I can have that. And Heather might say, I need Sharon to be my support person because Sharon keeps me on track. Those two parties are traditionally someone that was not involved in the situation and they are on the straight and narrow. They keep you together. They keep you on track. We would go through those same questions. The only difference is that, of course, now Heather gets to hear my side. Maybe Heather misheard me or maybe she thought I was upset about something different. This gives her the opportunity to be able to hear that. Once we've answered those questions and we can hear from each other and really listen to each other, we can both come to a common ground. And maybe I might apologize to Heather and say, oh my God, like, I can't believe I really turned up in front of the kiddos like that. I shouldn't have done that. She might be like, oh my God, I apologize. I shouldn't have gotten loud either. We shouldn't have entertained this conversation. We both should have walked away from each other and we could come to a common ground that way. It sounds very simple, but I promise it's much more work. I just made it sound really cute.
Well, and I think one thing too to know about this process is it takes time. There have been times where it's been about 3 months 6 months before we could get people together. And so we would just be holding space with people individually and supporting them and, being heard and finding out what they need so they can get to the place of being able to get what they need and then take responsibility and think about moving forward. And so one of the things we always say is we're really not here to decide who's right or wrong. We're here to create a space for everyone to be heard. What's important about this is having leadership buy-in and believe in young people facilitating. And so an important part of the structure, in addition to the circle itself, is a referral system that's created by the school. And so when I was developing this program at Alliance, I worked with our staff and our administrator to determine what the best flow would be. And so essentially, we created referrals, and the referrals would go to our administrator, and then she would give them to me. Or if somebody felt like it became very fluid, the process became so ingrained in all of us. People sort of knew when they could just come to a student and request something or come to me, but we had a formal referral process. And so that is really important, working out a formal referral process and also following up. So we come up with an agreement. We're really clear about what we're going to do by when, and we make sure that we check back in with people. And if they haven't done it, it's kind of like, so what got in the way and what do you need to do this and how are we going to move forward? So those are really important pieces as well.
I saw a question from Sherry that said, can we give more details about what the all school circles look like and if they're done at the same time with the same topic with student circle keepers, and whether or not staff members use RP in classrooms. So as Dorian loves to explain and loves to be a part of the process of repair harm circles, that is where she got a lot of her restorative practices experience from. I got a lot of my restorative practice experience from community building circles, so I love to talk about those circles in particular. With the school-wide circles, yes, they do take place at the same time over the course of like of a class period. We choose a day, we dedicate a day, and as the junior class, we come up with the topic, and then with that topic, we come up with a purpose for the circle, what we want the outcome to be from that topic, and then we create the questions. And so each of the students in that junior class facilitate their own circle, and it takes place in each and every classroom throughout the entire school. And the staff members are also a part of that. So let's say there's a teacher, Paul, there will be a circle held by me and Dorian in his classroom. He sits in the circle and is participating, as well as the list of people that we create to sit in that circle as well. And when creating the school-wide circles, we're strategic about who we put in the circle together, so that way everyone is able to participate or either learn from one another. Like, we might see that these two people don't really talk often, but we see something unique about them that they can probably relate to. And so we'll sit those two people, or we'll schedule that those two people be sitting in the same circle. And that school-wide circle really builds upon like having a relationship with people that you might not know. And once again, you see that same student on the bus, you might see him in that classroom, or you might see him down the hall. And it's just really nice to sit with them in a space where you won't be judged, there won't be any biases against you. It's just an open space for you to be honest and vulnerable about who you are and how you feel. I want to look over the question one more time to make sure I answered correctly. That's about it. And as far as staff members using restorative practices in their classroom, there will be some occasions where the teacher is like, you know what, my class is being disruptive. I'm gonna surprise them when they walk into this class tomorrow, because Heather's done that to us before as freshmen. I remember once there was a day we were rowdy, because that's what freshmen are. We're just rowdy kids. And we walked into the class and all the tables were pushed to the side and there was a circle of chairs. And I'm like, what is going on here? So yeah, it's common that some of the staff members will just have an impromptu circle just to gauge where their students are and figure out how they can best serve them. Because the job of a teacher is to teach the student, but how exactly are you supposed to do that if you don't understand the student?
And I think to that end, all the staff learn the work. And so everybody is on a continuum. And so we all practice and from the place we stand. But all staff who come to Alliance learn the work. One thing I just want to share is an example of a repair harm circle, of a school-wide circle process. My dear friend, Tina Owen, who is one of the founders of Alliance, she left to pursue higher education. And when she left, we faced some changes in the transition. And the students, our young people are so powerful. And when they're used to having power and they have a space to hold that power, they fly, right? But when people are afraid of what it might look like if we relinquish control, then like things started to tighten up and our students started to rebel, right? And so what I said is, what do you want to do? And so my students created a circle about basically why did we come to Alliance? What does the school mean to us? And what are we as a community going to do to bring forward what's important to us, but create in the new context? And so one group of students actually came to a staff meeting and facilitated the circle with the staff, like just the students and the staff from the advanced class. And then there was a school-wide circle to support that, to have a whole school effort to look at how will we move forward. So to do this, you have to have grown folks who are really comfortable allowing young people to lead and allowing young people to speak and create a space where everyone's able to do that. We have a community of about 200 people. So when you have these school-wide circles, the students like are dividing everybody up, deciding on the topics. Everything is working in concert with the school community. And so even the staff believed in the work so much that when I first started doing this work, I walked into the classroom, I had like 35 kids for this class. And over time, I'm like, yeah, so it's not gonna work, you all, to do this. And that was like 7 years ago. And so I explained, everyone got to understand what the work was and they saw the magic that unfolded. And so everyone was like, yeah, Heather, we'll take on extra people and we'll flex the schedule so that you can have less people and do this work. So I saw somebody asked about how do students learn the work? We learn the work by practicing. So essentially, I'm very much about experiential learning, about doing a lot of project work, and also looking at like creating the work with my students. And so there's a very deliberate curriculum that really starts with, where does the work come from? We talk about how this lives in all of us and how our ancestors whisper through us, through the work. And we talk about Harold and Phil Gattensby from the Yukon, and we talk about Chief Mark Wedge from the Tlingit Nation teaching Cape Pranis and sharing the work here in the United States. And so we talk about where the work comes from. And then we also talk about Alliance and what we're creating together. And so and then I talk about the larger system that we live in. And we talk about structural oppression, we talk about racism, and we talk about how do we recreate systems. And this is one thing that I want to say that's very critical, is that critical self-reflection for me as an educator, as a person, is really, really important because we are all steeped in the tea of white supremacy, unless I am constantly aware of what I'm doing, it's very easy for me to recreate systems that are part of this larger system, and this work can then become oppressive and replicate those systems. And so when I'm working with my students, this is something too that we explore, like what lives within inside of us, not just the stories that we hold about ourselves and where those stories came from, but really looking at what are the larger stories that surround us. And how does that form our identity and our understanding about who we are? And how do we recreate those stories? And so there's a lot of deep work that goes on. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of intentionality. There's a lot of circle space. And there's a lot of co-creation. But in the beginning, I spent a lot of time playing with my students. I play a lot of games with my students, very intentional games, always with a purpose. And we kind of fall in love with each other. We really do. We just have this time where we really connect with our hearts, but I'm always pushing them. And I always tell them at the beginning of the year, by the end of the year, you're not going to need me. And so gradually I continue to release. And by their senior year, they're just like, and I'm there to help facilitate the process. And I will never forget, there's this one young woman, and I must have been like doing too much coaching during their senior project. And this was Joyce, y'all. And I must have said something too much. She's like, is this your final? And I was like, no. She's like, why don't you go for a walk? I'm like, why don't I go for a walk? So that's the kind of spirit that I think the work creates.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Jada, they want to hear you.
Yeah. You want to go for it? Jada, did you have some response to the questions?
Oh, I was just asking because, like, well, Heather kind of like answered it already. It was like a question that was like, basically, like, how did we learn how to do circle? And I was just wanted to say, like, well, Heather basically said it already, like, how we learned. So, like,
It's all good. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I wanted, I'm sorry, Leanne.
No, I was, if you have more, I was just looking at the questions and wanting to make sure that we get to some of those.
I was going to say, as far as interpreters, generally speaking, we've have people where we haven't had to work with interpreters. Oh, that's, although
we did.
that's not true. That's right, Dorian. Go
I'm
ahead.
like, See, yeah, we had
Sorry. Yeah.
we had some police people come from the Middle East and they had an interpreter, and it was like, honestly, that's like one of my favorite circles. The one thing I will say is with the interpreter, I'm someone that I talk really fast, or at least I'm told I talk fast, so I had to talk really slow. But other than that, they really enjoyed the circle and they liked our questions, and like we still played games with them, and it was a super, super cool experience. And they gave us a really awesome talking piece. Even though I am not very good at saying what's on the talking piece, Heather knows how to say it. So she counts for me. we're that close that when she says it, I say it too. But yeah, we've had an interpreter before.
And in terms of working with students who have special needs, this is part of the intentionality about planning for Circle. It's always about what is happening and what is needed. What will be most supportive of the students. When I'm working with my students, we look at like who has a relationship with this person. You know, we want our circle keepers to reflect the people in the circle and for people to feel comfortable. And so I've had circles with, students who are on the spectrum, and we've had like, folks, their teachers come in and sit with them. We've had other students who have good relationship with them. Honestly, the magic is really in the students who have relationships. So basically, it's about knowing who our students are and knowing what they need. So if it means we've had people dealing with some really intense mental health issues. And so we did a lot of consulting with our school psychologists ahead of time about what's most supportive. So there is no canned situation. There is this level of listening for what is needed and what's going to be most supportive of the student at the end of the day. And we have worked with people outside of the community. And I think the question—
That's for Antonio, isn't it? Right, Antonio? Can't you answer that question?
No, actually, but you know what? We actually have had this happen in the school. I know Antonio is going to share about the community piece too. So, but I wanted to just share that we have had situations where we've had conflicts and with parents, different groups of parents, and then we've resolved them in the context of the school space. You know what I'm talking about, Dorian. So we have done that as well. And again, it's all in the design. And I can say that there have been times when adults were afraid, and I have had to, in my role as a circle keeper and supporting our students, I have had to ask other adults to stand down and allow the students to hold the space and do the work. And so that I think is really important too, is knowing when to stand back and also when to step in. And I think that is just about practice. Okay, go ahead, Antonio.
I'm rereading the question. If there was a situation that I was involved in that, that I can, like an experience where I can answer this question, I do not remember.
Like you just facilitated this, like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you know what, Dorian? I think they were talking about the school, and that's why Antonio is confused.
Oh.
Can y'all like help me out here? Because I'm still.
Okay, so maybe it would be helpful if Steve, you want to just unmute and explain your question.
Well, because 2020 just continues to find new ways to confound us. One of the things that's popped up on the radar is we have some parents who are not happy that the schools have not reopened and have chosen to express that unhappiness in, I'll be very diplomatic, less than positive ways. And, there's a part of me that's wondering is, obviously, if we're talking about RJ in sort of a school context, a parent screaming at school staff who have nothing to do with the fact that the school can't reopen is really just harmful to the poor school staff members who are just trying to go to work and have nothing to do with a, school system-wide decision. But, is this maybe something that we can look at as an opportunity to try to get those parents to a table and, we can't resolve the big problem. Like, you're not going to come around to the superintendent's decision, but maybe we can get you to recognize that you yelling at the poor lady who works in the cafeteria, who's just trying to make lunches for the handful of special needs kids that are there, isn't productive for anyone. And just now this poor woman is terrified. So, is there a model to maybe incorporate, and build off of that we could look at for some of those issues?
I guess, the thing that I've dealt with a lot of parents who've come in with a lot of really strong feelings about a range of things. And I think what has been really powerful is sitting and listening. And I think that is so much about what this work is really finding a space, separate from, from where the action is, but sitting down with somebody, whether it's in a virtual space or in a physical space now with some physical distance, but asking the person what's happening, and those 4 questions that Dorian talked about. I kind of like struggle with like facts, feelings, fix, future. I mean, it's kind of great, for like teaching, and they all begin with F, but there really is, we don't fix people because nobody's broken. We just have to remember that, right? We just have to remember the truth. And so when we sit down, it's really about working with people to find out what's happening for them and listening. And so many times when we're holding space with somebody, once people get a chance to talk about what's happening for them and express how they're feeling, then we can begin to think about, so what do you think what would be beneficial in moving the situation forward? And then working with them to figure out what it is, because we had some difficulties with parents and we in other situations and found out what the parents needed and supported them in getting what they needed. So I really think, and these times are just, there's so many things that we're all facing, but there's great power in listening to people.
Thanks, Heather. I have a question. This is for Dorian and Antonio, because Heather was telling me in our conversation the other week that you all actually have real jobs doing RJ work. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more, and for you all to share with the group a little bit more about what those jobs are, what you're doing.
Oh, it feels so weird when you guys use that J word. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like my life's work. I just so happen to get paid for it. But to talk a little bit about what me and Antonio do, first and foremost, I feel like me and Antonio wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for Heather and Sharon. So I always feel like I need to put that out there. Especially Sharon always using her connections and like rubbing elbows with everyone. So I always like to make that very known. But to speak a little bit about what me and Antonio do, with at least my work partners, because everybody's my work partner. With my work partners, we sat down and we pretty much decided that we wanted to create a citywide model, which Antonio will probably show. As far as what we're doing on the day-to-day is that we've created a referral program. So we've secured a contract with the Department of Youth and Family Services for 11 months, where we will work with first-time offenders and some individuals that are on parole. And we will be teaching them how to do restorative practices, teaching them how to facilitate a circle, going over repair harm work, as well as also giving them the opportunity to learn some life skills. And work on some like family trauma and like things of that nature. So we'll be working with some of the individuals that are on parole for 6 months. And then we will also be working with first-time offenders for a month and a half. While we're doing that, we will also be taking referrals from the DA's office for some of their cases. We also are facilitating trainings for where we currently work, which is at the Center of Self-Sufficiency. So we'll be holding a training for their staff, where their staff will get the opportunity to learn where the work hails from, and also just being able to have the opportunity where they'll be able to further utilize that in their work. A lot of the work that is done at the Center of Self-Sufficiency is for, they do a lot of re-entry work for a lot of people that are coming out of the system, giving them the opportunity to get jobs, getting clothing, housing, things of that nature. So it'll be really awesome for them to also have that training. And then we also work with the Office of Violence Prevention here in Milwaukee as well. And we'll be facilitating and training with them. So we do a little bit of everything. We always like to come back to our roots and work with Heather with her class as well. So I hope that answers the question. Antonio, did I miss anything?
I think you really hit it on the head. Where this job really came from, like I really do have to sing my praises to both Sharon and Heather, because they are like, the best way I can describe it is they savages for real. They are like relentless and restless when it comes to really fighting for what is deserved, and they value our time as restorative practice practitioners and wanted to make sure that other people valued our time, and so they fought really hard to gather funding and to figure out where we're going to be housed. And they put a lot of time into finding an organization that would house us, take care of our needs, supply us with insurance. And the place that we're housed, the Center for Self-Sufficiency, is like, it's picture perfect, nearly. Like the fact that a lot of our work right now, working with the justice system and working with the DA's office, the public defender's office, and with the Department of Youth and Family Services, along with excuse me, along with being housed under the Center for Self-Sufficiency, where they do a lot of, like Dorian said, a lot of work with returning citizens. It's like, could you ask for anything better? It's and the staff that we work with, they're all wonderful people. They're welcoming and warm-hearted, and it's like I said, it's picture perfect. Couldn't be any better. Right now, we're in the process of setting foundation for working with the justice system, as well as getting into the first stages of implementing the citywide model. We were starting with the library, but because of COVID, we had to switch our focus over to the justice system, because Sharon had some connections there and was really able to get our faces seen and our names known and our voices heard. And much appreciation to you, Sharon, for using your connections to have people see who we are and respect us, and be able to listen to us and know what we do, what we stand for. I do want to talk a little bit about the citywide model. So with our vision for how the citywide model would be is librarians or library staff and police officers all trained in restorative practices, and that the libraries would be kind of like the home base of where community circles or community trainings would be held. Just having a connection with the library, so that way we have a place, we have a go-to for where we can actually like facilitate the work. Having the police officers trained, receiving referrals from the police officers for people who, instead of saying like, okay, you did this, I'm going to give you a citation, or I'm going to write a ticket or something to that nature, having them trained to know whether or not a person is in a space where they are just doing wrong out of personal situations, and having them know whether or not a person needs a referral, and working with them to receive referrals, so that way we can kind of get to that person before they get entangled with the justice system. Really trying to, the word I'm thinking of, but anyway, get in between that process. With that, having some community members. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat. She needs a lot of attention. Having community members trained, having librarians trained, having police officers trained, and people who just facilitate circles, having a place that was also going on. It was set up at the Sojourner Family Peace Center, the monthly circle keeper gathering, so that way circle keepers all across the city would have a place where they can reflect on one another's experiences as circle keepers, to discuss what's going well and what they're challenged with, so that they can learn from one another, reflect from one another, and just have a place where they can discuss, circle keeper stuff between one another.
Antonio, before we run out of time, I just wanted to jump in and answer the question about having a large school and how to address that. Is there anything else that you wanted to? Because I'm noticing the time.
Got you. Yep.
I was gonna say, Jada, I'll answer your question later. I'm like, just call me.
We're creating this, and I have to really, Sharon has had this grand design for a very long time, and we've been working for many years together and working with people in the city. And it's incredible that at this time, at this moment, all of this is coming together. And so the intention is, Nisi and Jada, that there will be more jobs, maybe, maybe 10, maybe 20 that will be available. I'm just going to speak it. But having more people in a school. So Sharon and I have worked with school districts and with schools. And so what we have found with large schools, if there can be a group of people who are really holding the work in the school, there's a couple different approaches, right? So how many staff members are in the school of 2000?
We have about over 200, if you're like all staff, not just teachers.
Yeah, okay. Because I think there's my belief is that it's most beneficial when everybody learns how to do the work. And so when Sharon and I but the one way that we have done this with school districts is that there was a core team of people, including administrators, teachers, who were holding the work. And so off the top of my head, my thought is this: it can be most powerful if the administrators, I think, have to be willing to learn and hold the work. And if you have a group of teachers who are willing to learn and hold the work, specifically if there's a teacher who's able to teach the class, right? So that there can be a group of students who can learn and do the work. I think you have to adapt the model to the school. And it's almost something that we would have to sit with you and support you in thinking through how to best design it. But it's really about being strategic about who's doing and holding the work and how the rest of the staff gets to experience it. So there is a school, there are about 60 staff members, smaller than what you're talking about, but there was some resistance to the work. So we had shared one of our videos with them, and this was Antonio's class. My students had come and facilitated circles with all 60 of their staff. And it was on one of their opening days, talking about like, who do you want to be in the school, and just giving them an opportunity to experience the work. And then the people who, after experience it, had the opportunity to volunteer to participate in the training. And then over the course of, I think it was 2 years, Sharon, right? We trained all 60 staff actually. And then my students in another class taught the 7th and 8th grade students so that they could hold the work and work with the younger students. And so we had kind of a model. So I guess it's important for people to create space to experience it, elect to do it, but also it has to be in the structure of the school. I think it's really important.
The one thing I want to add is when you're providing training, it's really important that at the end of our training, what we'd always ask is, who are you going to be facilitating with when you start doing your circles? Who's going to be your ally? You don't want to just train one person in a school or one person at a place and expect that it's going to happen. The reason that all of this works, I mean, I could never do this alone. No one could ever do when you look at what we're doing, it's because we're all working together. And we're all passionate about it. So it's real important in doing trainings to think about, if you're going to send people out to do something, don't send them out alone. Always make sure that they have a co-facilitator to do this work and an ally to help spread this work.
And a space to come back to. I think that's really critical too. So I think I had a very blessed and unique situation where I literally sat with Yvette for 3 months, and she was in my classroom, and I was like a child sitting in circle with my, like in that space. And so I soaked in the sacredness of her from the Blackfoot tradition. You know what I mean? So it was such a gift for me to have that. But I think what was also supportive is that we became very close friends. And for a whole year, I kept reaching back to her. This is what I'm creating. What do you think about this? Is this a reflection of the work? So there has to be an opportunity for everyone to grow the work, to practice, to have supports, and to be able to come back. And so there has to be a gradual process, kind of like with the students, like place to practice, place to come back and talk about it, and a release, into the world.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. This is, I could just listen to all of y'all talking about this for quite some time. And our designated time has arrived. And I know people are needing a break as well. So I want to just invite our group to unmute yourselves and say thank you to our guests. Thank you to Heather and Sharon and I'm sorry, Anessia and Jada and Dorian and Antonio.
Thank you.
We really appreciate
Thank
your time.
you very much.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Can I say one
Thank
thing,
you.
Leanne, that I
Thank
think
you.
is, you're welcome. And can I
Mhm.
please say one thing that's really important in my heart?
Sure.
Because the person who passed away just came into my face, and he was like, I saw his smiling face. When we think about who the students who lead this work, we look for leadership. And sometimes leadership looks like people being really naughty. And so sometimes the people who are most naughty and go through the most powerful transformation have the most courage and can lead this work and so powerfully. So I just saw his face, and I just want to say he was naughty and he could lead this work beautifully. So as you think about your young people, remember the naughty people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much,
Yeah.
Heather. And I'm sorry.
Before we
somebody-
go, could we do a take roll really quickly to see who is coming back and who is leaving?
Okay. Yes. And thank you.
Say goodbye properly if they are leaving. And
Right.
remember to wait for them if they're coming back.
Sure. Okay. How do one best do this? Guests are welcome to stay, right, for our conversation.
We
So
would ideally like all of you to
Yeah,
stay and come back.
and I know it's it's taking up a lot of your evening, so we totally understand either way. So maybe let's just I'm gonna go. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna stop recording. And